There's one element to fabric that makes it different from almost everything else, which is that it's next to us. It's right next to our skins all our lives. And from the day we're born to the day we die, we're in contact with fabric.
Weaving is one of the oldest of all crafts, dating back tens of thousands of years. The Romans introduced hand looms to Britain 2,000 years ago. And by the 15th century, British weaving was some of the most accomplished in Europe. All fabric was hand-woven until the 18th century, when the power loom transformed what had always been a cottage industry into England's dark, satanic mills.
And yet the curious thing is that the craft has still hung on. People are still using hand looms and creating extraordinary fabrics, even though we have the technology, we have the industry to produce all the fabric we want. So what is it about that process, that ancient process, that still captivates people?
There are now fewer than 200 people in the UK making a living from hand weaving. And whilst the process might be ancient, many of today's hand-woven fabrics are absolutely contemporary. I'm travelling down to a workshop on a farm in West Sussex, which is where our 3 trainees will study, under the expert guidance of master weaver Margot Selby.
The more I think about it, the more I realise that I know very little about weaving. I love fabrics and sort of assume that I know how they're woven, but actually I don't think I've even seen anybody weave, let alone understood the process.
Margot is one of the UK's foremost weavers, and as well as having astonishing skills, she's also built a strong commercial brand, and her busy studio in central London supplies top stores all around the world. But for the next 6 weeks, she'll be based here in the countryside with her students.
Hello.
Hello.
This is, actually, the truth is, this is quite intimidating for me, but anyway, nice to meet you. I'm Monty.
Nice to meet you.
I realise I know practically nothing about weaving, so for me, this is going to be quite a lot to learn and take in. What's the core of it? What excites you about it?
You're building a cloth from scratch. You know, you're completely constructing something from cones of yarn through to final cloth. It's not an instant reward that you get when you're weaving. You know, there's a lot of delayed gratification.
What's the serious time that you would have to devote to it to become a master weaver?
It took me 5 years before I felt comfortable that I could think of my ideas, have a vision, and then think, oh, I know how I'll do that. It's more than a hobby. Becoming a weaver it's a really serious
commitment.
Commitment, that's a really good word.
Yeah.
You have to be really dedicated to it.
Our 3 would-be weavers attending the course all profess to have the necessary commitment to master this, the most complicated of all crafts. Holly Berry is a London-based ethical clothes designer. She graduated from art college with a first in fashion and has always been fascinated by weaving.
Fabric is a really important part of my life, and it's something that is really personal because it's right next to our skin. I think it creates that emotional connection with me because of that. I think in fabric, saying that though, I haven't tried weaving before because it's not something you can just sort of get a book and teach yourself how to weave. I mean, I might fall flat on my face, and that might be why it's a dying craft, because it's so hard, but hopefully I'll be able to do it.
Treff Davis now works at an art centre in London after being made redundant from his job as a business analyst for a city firm.
The job I used to have did involve a fair amount of sort of being organised, keeping track in my mind of all the different strands of my work that were going on. And I think for me that's going to be really handy.
Treff's ultimate ambition is to go into theatrical costume design.
A lot of the stuff I started doing was based around like wanting to use fabric. Wanting to do weaving seems like a really natural progression to that, because it's like going back one stage further to want to actually make the material that you're making stuff out of.
Mumtaz Begum Hussain is a published craft writer from London. She makes her own clothes and doesn't believe in following the rules.
I'm not a perfectionist. So if I'm sewing something, if I'm knitting something and I drop a stitch, I don't go back and pick up the dropped stitch, I just make it part of the design.
Mumtaz wants to challenge the traditions of the craft and infuse it with her own idiosyncratic style.
Nice to meet you. Hello, I'm Monty.
I'm Holly. Nice to meet you. Hi, I'm Montez.
Nice to meet you.
Treff.
Treff, nice to meet you too. You ready?
We're really ready.
There you go. Okay, come with me. I'll tell you where you're going to be. Come on in. This is going to be your home for the next 6 weeks. And this is Margot.
Hello. Hi, welcome to the Weave Workshop. These are your looms, and you're going to be spending a lot of time on these over the next 6 weeks.
The trainees now have to learn a new and extremely difficult set of skills. Starting with the fiendishly complex process of setting up their looms, they will be taught the fundamentals of weaving before their progress is assessed on a final project. Whichever one of them is reckoned to have produced the most accomplished piece of work will then win full access to a loom in Margot's London studio for 6 months. And there he or she will be able to continue their education in the craft.
This is the warping shed. And what we're going to do this afternoon is we're going to make a series of 3 different warps. A warp is the yarn which is going to go on the loom. This is a warping frame which hangs on the wall. As I wind the threads round these pegs, the most important thing is that I'm winding across, which is where I go over and under with the threads at both the bottom and the top. And it's this cross which keeps all the threads in order. Then I'm going to take this warp into the studio and onto the loom.
Each trainee is given their own warp winder.
A single basic fact unites all fabrics, and that is that they're made up of 2 different types of thread. You've got vertical threads, which is the warp, which are interwoven with horizontal threads, that is the weft. And the loom is the means by which these 2 types of thread are interwoven together so that they hold strong.
That sounds straightforward enough, but there's no room for any error. Make one tiny mistake and it always comes back to bite you.
Feeling good? I'm in great sympathy for you.
I have to admit I'm a little bit lost. I'm good with the doing, you know, like the procedure. I think I've got that down. I'm just into the sort of slow act of getting it done.
But Momtaz is already running into problems.
I feel like, all right, I just completely forget. And I'm thinking,
I want to stand with you. Let's do a few together. So,
okay. So where does the under over start? I'm thinking this is going under.
Yeah.
So then, but
so you keep following the rest of the group.
Okay.
You seem to be hitting one of the themes of this, which is repetitive actions, extremely repetitive actions.
Yes.
Each one of which matters every time.
They all have to be exactly right.
Right.
Holly and Treff seem to get the hang of it quite quickly. Then it's my turn.
So if we come up here, we go like that.
No.
No, we go up over there. We want to go over.
No, hang on. We're going to get into a mess.
Go there.
Yeah, but so you see the
No,
two...
we aren't going to get in a mess. I am going to get in a mess. There is something slightly restricting and sticky about this whole process, isn't there? I have to say, I feel a bit sort of...
restrained.
tied. Yeah, I do. I feel like I'm wound round by a yarn, and if only I can just untangle with my fingers.
But look
get
how
that.
beautifully neat and straight these yarns are, and there's something really wonderful about that. You know, these yarns are in order, and they're going to keep us and our designs and our creativity in order.
Now, the next thing that the trainees have got to do is take the warp that they're winding and put it onto the loom. Now, that actually is quite a slow technical process, but this is not all just preparation. Even though it can take days to get right, it's all part of weaving. And that mindset that enjoys and understands and masters every aspect of the process from the very beginning is essential if they're to become competent at weaving.